Hi, this is Vivian, and this is week 4, discussion 2, and we're talking about mental health illness in young adolescent children and how it affects them, and also the roles that nurses and other leaders, I guess, in school play. So, first off, one of the things that we were asked to address was there anything that really surprised us in any of the articles or videos that we heard? And for me, the one thing that did stick out was the 15 million children that are affected by mental health illness, and just what a tremendous number that is. And just knowing how many, just knowing the fact that we have already so many adults with mental health, to know there's 15 million children is sad. It's a huge number, and it's kind of like hard for me to wrap my head around that a little bit. But I know that it's out there, and I know that it definitely exists. This topic actually for me hits very close to home. My oldest nephew has suffered with mental illness his whole life, as he continues to. And so while I don't know what it's like to be him and to be in his head and to know what he goes through every single day, I do know that it's very challenging, and it's very hard for these kids to grow up in their bodies because of the challenges they face. So one of the articles discussed really targeting and finding out when that initial point is, when it really hits, when it really occurs, so that, and how critical it is, so that you could really try to correct it, or at least try and work better with that child. And it's very important, and I understand that wholeheartedly, because to this day I think to myself, when was the exact point and when was the exact time that my nephew changed, or when did something change? What did we miss? What was it that we didn't see as a family? And so I can totally identify with that, and understand how critical and crucial it is for that to be. So with that, we also discussed school nurses, and do we feel that it's necessary and that it's important, or that it is the responsibility of schools to assess mental health? What I think personally is that schools do have a responsibility. I don't think that all of the responsibility should lay on them. However, I do think that if a child comes into school, I think that there should be a plan, a specific plan for each child. And so if, let's say, an assessment is done early on, where a child is diagnosed with the potential of having some kind of mental illness or something along the way, I think it's very important for the parent and the teacher relationship to be really, really strong, so that they could figure out an agenda, a way, a path for that child, so that that child doesn't have to struggle and be stuck and stick out like a sore thumb. And so while I don't think it's completely the school's responsibility, I feel they do have a responsibility, because that's where that child spends most of its time. So there should be a role that they do. It should be an assessment. There should be a team of people to screen the children and just talk to them and just know exactly where this child is coming from. And I know that sometimes in certain environments it's really, really difficult, but I think that until we get to a place where there is a parent, teacher, school type of community, I think that we're going to continue to see kids struggling and not really getting their needs met, and just being passed along and moved along through the system, and then later struggling as adults. And so the thing that can be done to help these children and to help the parents and to help the schools with these mental health issues is really just a really strong community effort that is very detailed and specific to each and every child, and not generalized, because there are many phases of mental illness. There are, one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. There's so many different variations, and each person is different. And I think that what I tend to see and hear that a lot of schools do is that they put everything into a box, and then they try to label it. And that really doesn't help. Because then you're looking, as a parent, you're like, oh, okay, so my child is like this, that, and the other, but they're not this way. They have these criteria, but they don't have that criteria. And it's very confusing for a parent who's trying to figure things out and trying to learn and navigate and work with their child as much as possible, and help them with their homework and really help them be successful. So I think that there needs to be a much more detailed, specific action plan for each and every child along the way of their development, so that if something is caught, that it is addressed. And those are my thoughts. Thank you.